The Mystery Inc. always enthusiastically takes part in the annual Coolsville Halloween Carnival on Halloween night. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are not afraid of the old-fashioned scare tricks at all, because they know that Halloween night is the only night when everything is fake. Meanwhile, the others are looking forward to Krutsky's magic performance. At the same time, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are playing the apple bobbing game. But Scooby-Doo accidentally splashes water onto other people, including Krutsky, who is unfortunately about to go on stage. Scooby-Doo directly causes Krutsky to lose his temper, so Krutsky bans Scooby-Doo from appearing at his performance. However, Krutsky does not realize that the more something is forbidden, the more people want to do it. Krutsky's show then begins with countless magic tricks and loud applause from the audience. Scooby-Doo takes advantage of the moment when Krutsky is about to perform the classic trick of pulling a rabbit out of a hat and exposes him. Next, Shaggy exposes even more of Krutsky's tricks. He talks about the table with hidden holes and also reveals the trapdoor Krutsky uses to make his dramatic entrances. This directly makes the audience realize that Krutsky is nothing more than a fake magician with no real magic at all. However, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy do not know that this act of exposing him will cause trouble for them later. With only 1 hour left before Halloween night ends, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy take the chance to go trick-or-treating. Before long, the two of them collect 2 large sacks filled with candy. After that, Fred can only tell Scooby-Doo and Shaggy to wait there while he goes to get the mystery machine. Meanwhile, at Krutsky's tent, he is still furious with Scooby-Doo and Shaggy for ruining his performance. Krutsky has spent his entire life being a fraud, and his greatest desire is to become a real magician. Just as he does not know what to do next, Fairy Princess Willow accidentally drops a spellbook that talks about the Goblin Scepter. The book immediately catches Krutsky's attention. People believe that anyone who holds this scepter can rule the world. As Krutsky sinks deeper into his fantasies about the future, Willow mischievously uses a bit of magic to tease him. She even flies around right in front of Krutsky's face to make him angrier. Because she is too absorbed in her prank, Willow does not pay attention to what is in front of her and ends up hitting her head and losing consciousness. Seeing this, Krutsky swings his fly swatter with all his strength and cannot believe that he has truly found what he has been looking for. He quickly checks the spellbook and is shocked to realize that he has actually captured a fairy from legend in his hands. At the same time, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy arrive at the final house of the night, Gibbles' Genuine Magic Shop. When the automatic door opens by itself, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy feel a little scared, but because of the candy, they bravely walk inside. Not only that, they also run around and cause chaos throughout the shop. It is not until thunder crashes loudly and the owner appears that they finally understand what fear feels like. However, contrary to their expectations, Gibbles is a kind and easygoing elderly man and not scary at all. When he sees customers, he warmly welcomes them. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy do not come to buy anything but simply to ask for candy. Instead of giving them candy like everyone else, Gibbles chooses to tease them instead. At the same time, he reveals that Halloween is the only day when ghosts are allowed to break the rules and appear in the human world. Just then, a knock echoes at the door and Gibbles sees the fairy princess crying for help. Willow quickly explains that Krutsky has absorbed her magical powers and she begs Gibbles to close the shop before he finds her. Hearing this, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy prepare to run, but it is already too late. Krutsky has tracked down Gibbles' Genuine Magic Shop and marches straight toward the magic mirror, chanting a spell to reveal the location of the fairy princess. The moment he learns where she is hiding, Krutsky launches an attack to force her into the open. Although he has already absorbed her magical powers, his greed remains endless and unsatisfied. Seeing this, Gibbles swings his wand, but with a single move Krutsky turns him into a rabbit. Not stopping there, Krutsky loots every magical artifact inside Gibbles' Genuine Magic Shop. Witnessing the chaos, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy want nothing more than to flee as fast as they can, but Gibbles stops them and warns that the fate of the world is now at stake. Evil has gained power, and the greater that power becomes, the greater the danger to the world. Gibbles then shows Scooby-Doo and Shaggy a vision of the future, and it Krutsky rules over everything while their friends are transformed into hideous monsters. However, this future has not yet come to pass, which means there is still time to change fate. Now Scooby-Doo and Shaggy must embark on a dangerous journey to rewrite destiny itself. They must find the Goblin Scepter of the Goblin King before Krutsky does. Because if he obtains the Goblin Scepter and combines it with the Fairy Princess's magical powers, he will gain unmatched and unstoppable power. Gibbles reveals his plan next. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy must travel to the spirit world to search for the Goblin King's castle. They need to sneak inside and steal the Goblin Scepter before the clock strikes midnight. After that, Gibbles gives them temporary magic cards that can turn them into monster-like versions of themselves. The magic only works once and it lasts for a very short time. When Scooby-Doo and Shaggy successfully disguise themselves as monsters, Gibbles immediately books 2 tickets on the Grim Reaper Railway to the spirit world. Before they leave, he reminds them one last time that they must return before midnight, or they will be trapped in the spirit world forever. Seeing that every passenger on the train is a wandering spirit, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy feel like screaming in terror. When the train finally arrives, both of them regain their sense of being alive. Suddenly, a man appears and asks what Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are doing there. At that exact moment, the magic wears off, which forces them to return to their original forms. The man assumes they are mocking him, and in anger he transforms into a werewolf. Faced with this, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy fuse together to create a single werewolf-like form known as Shaggy-Doo in order to convince him. It turns out the werewolf is simply doing his job, because he is one of the guardians of the spirit world. The werewolf then leads Scooby-Doo and Shaggy into a bar exclusively for monsters. Spotting a girl who looks completely normal, Shaggy strikes up a conversation, unaware that she is actually Medusa. Shaggy continues asking the monsters for directions to the Goblin King's castle, which shocks everyone around him. Any monster who hears the name Goblin King immediately reacts with fear. The name itself is treated as a forbidden and dangerous word. At that moment, 2 bumbling goblin henchmen who are Glob and Glum appear to deal with the disturbance. As they prepare to capture Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, a jack-o'-lantern steps in to help. With only a bit of intimidation, he scares the 2 goblin henchmen into retreat, sending them running away. Afterward, the jack-o'-lantern leads Scooby-Doo and Shaggy outside, saying there is nothing interesting left inside the bar. He warns them to be careful, because tonight the goblins will be released into the spirit world. The jack-o'-lantern wants to help them find the Goblin King's castle, but his time is limited. When the candle inside him burns out, the jack-o'-lantern disappears completely. Just then a horse lets out a chilling neigh, and Scooby-Doo and Shaggy see the Headless Horseman. Jack-o'-lantern is desperately fleeing because the Headless Horseman wants Jack for a pumpkin head. As the Headless Horseman charges closer, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy grab Jack-o'-lantern and run straight into a pumpkin patch. Failing to reclaim his head drives the Headless Horseman into a frenzy, and he begins slashing wildly in every direction. The screams of Scooby-Doo and Shaggy catch his attention, and he immediately mounts his horse and gives chase to reclaim Jack-o'-lantern. Seeing no other option, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy use their temporary magic cards to summon monsters for help. But even the monsters flee in terror before the Headless Horseman's madness. Shaggy burns through card after card, yet the Headless Horseman shows no sign of stopping. In a brief moment of carelessness, Shaggy falls into a ravine and Jack-o'-lantern is unable to escape the Headless Horseman's grasp. The Headless Horseman then turns his fury toward Shaggy, determined to punish him for interfering with his work. Just as he prepares to strike, Scooby-Doo arrives in time, but the 3 of them are forced to keep running as the Headless Horseman grows even more enraged. Soon Scooby-Doo, Shaggy and Jack-o'-lantern dash across a covered bridge, forcing the Headless Horseman to halt. The covered bridge marks the boundary between the world of the living and the spirit world, and spirits are unable to cross this threshold. Meanwhile, Velma, Fred and Daphne return to the Halloween carnival but find no sign of Scooby-Doo or Shaggy. The area is eerily deserted, with only Krutsky's tent glowing brightly. Curious, they peer inside and see Krutsky speaking with the Goblin King. Krutsky uses the fairy princess as leverage, forcing the Goblin King to surrender the Goblin Scepter. Witnessing real magic for the first time in her life, Velma is so shocked that she faints. The Goblin King is unwilling, but he has no choice but to comply. Krutsky is overjoyed because he is convinced that he can finally take revenge on Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, refusing to let their friends remain in danger. Mystery Inc. begins planning to sabotage the exchange. At the same time, Jack-o'-lantern leads Scooby-Doo and Shaggy to the witch's hut, explaining that the witches are the only ones he knows who have ever been to the Goblin King's castle. After repaying his debt, Jack-o'-lantern departs and wishes Scooby-Doo and Shaggy good luck. The 2 approach the hut and are quickly discovered by the Grand Witch. While preparing dinner, she tricks Shaggy into tasting it, instantly transforming him into a snail. Scooby-Doo is next and is turned into a mouse. Seeing this, the Cat Witch tries to catch Scooby-Doo, but despite their desperate escape attempt, Shaggy's snail-like speed makes it hopeless. Feeling they have teased them enough, the Owl Witch restores both of them to their original forms. All 3 witches know that Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are searching for the Goblin King's castle, but they insist on help first. They reveal a prophecy foretelling that a dark force will emerge tonight, shattering the supernatural balance and bringing disaster everywhere, sharing the same goal so both sides reach an agreement. The witches give Scooby-Doo and Shaggy a flying broomstick for faster travel, along with 2 magical potions they may need later. As soon as the witches finish their warning, the broomstick sets off toward Old Oak Grove, where mythical creatures can guide them to the Goblin King's castle. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are unaware that they have already caught the attention of Glob and Glum. The 2 goblins quickly fire a goblin cannon, striking the flying broomstick and forcing it out of the sky. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy wake up believing they are dead, but to their relief, they are unharmed by the fall. They even discover a small fairy village where fairies live. The broomstick is not as lucky, but the fairies kindly offer to restore it with magic, unlike the goblins because the fairies are gentle and friendly, using good magic to counterbalance goblin magic. However, the balance is slowly tipping. Hearing Scooby-Doo and Shaggy's mission, the fairies offer to guide them toward the Goblin King's castle. Even after warning them that goblins guard the area heavily, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy press on, knowing that once they have started this journey, there is no turning back. After that, the fairies lead Scooby-Doo and Shaggy to the Goblin Graveyard, because it is the only path that can take them to the Goblin King's castle. Not only that, it is also a one-way path. With no time left to hesitate, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy decide to go in anyway. Before long, the Goblin King's castle appears before their eyes. A grand Halloween feast is taking place there, as the goblins are allowed to cross into the human world. Seeing the massive crowd, Shaggy suddenly remembers the 2 potions given to them by the 3 witches. The moment Scooby-Doo and Shaggy drink them, they transform into goblin versions resembling Velma and Daphne. Using their disguises and charm, they successfully sneak into the castle. However, there are only 5 minutes left before the clock strikes midnight, so they have to act quickly. Just as they are about to steal the goblin scepter, 2 goblins suddenly block their path and insist on dancing with them. Scooby-Doo manages to approach the Goblin King while no one is paying attention, but the potion wears off at the worst possible moment and exposes his true identity. With no other choice, Scooby-Doo distracts the Goblin King long enough to snatch the goblin scepter. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy try to escape the castle, but they are quickly cornered. The Goblin King soon recovers the goblin scepter, and at that exact moment the clock strikes midnight. The hour of the goblins arrives, and a massive gate opens, leading straight to the human world. Because of their past conflict with Glob and Glum, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are captured and thrown into prison. Meanwhile, the Goblin King goes to meet Krutsky at the clock tower exactly as they had agreed. He hands over the goblin scepter in exchange for the safety of the fairy princess. However, the deal is suddenly disrupted by the Mystery Inc. gang, who attempt to capture Krutsky. In the chaos, Krutsky jumps aside, accidentally causing the Goblin King to be captured instead. The moment Krutsky gains control of the goblin scepter, he turns the Goblin King into a useless goose. He then announces to all goblins that they now have a new master. At the same time, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are escorted deeper into the dungeon. They fail, but they refuse to give up, knowing how far they have already come. Shaggy quietly wishes they could have just one more chance to fix everything. Hearing that someone has made a wish, the fairies appear because granting wishes is their sacred duty. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy soon find a way to escape the Goblin King's castle and discover that their flying broomstick has been fully repaired. Along the way, they also reunite with the Pumpkin Lantern. Elsewhere, Krutsky orders the goblins to invade the human world. While fleeing, Mystery Inc. is intercepted by Krutsky, who uses dark magic to transform the Mystery Machine into a monstrous creature. With no way to fight back, so Velma, Fred, and Daphne climb onto a Ferris wheel, but the possessed Mystery Machine traps it in place, leaving them completely helpless. Gibbles' prophecy finally comes true as they are turned into monsters. Krutsky bursts into maniacal laughter, convinced that no one can stop him anymore. At that moment, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy suddenly appear. They attack Krutsky using the Pumpkin Lantern and successfully steal the Goblin Scepter. Scooby-Doo is instantly transformed into a goblin, and with the power of the Goblin Scepter he defeats Krutsky. Scooby-Doo then absorbs all of Krutsky's dark magic and restores everything to its original state. The Goblin King quickly regains the Goblin Scepter and delivers judgment upon Krutsky. He then punishes Fairy Princess Willow for causing too much trouble by placing her under house arrest for 1 year. However, with a bit of pleading and sweet talk, Willow manages to regain her freedom as she is the Goblin King's beloved daughter. After that, the goblins return to the spirit world, and the Pumpkin Lantern is restored by Gibbles and the Goblin King. Although Scooby-Doo and Shaggy have grown deeply attached to the Pumpkin Lantern, they know it is time to return to their own lives. Wanting no further trouble in the human world, the Goblin King decides to erase all human memories of that day, leaving only Scooby-Doo and Shaggy to remember everything because they are the true heroes of the night.